Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining me. This is the podcast, The Endurance of Labor Laws. I am your lovely host, Lesley Sullivan. And today is episode 134. And we're going to take a look at the FBI Academy. This is pretty interesting. I have a little bit of information about it. There are a couple things that I don't like, but overall, everything looks really good. I'm actually really impressed with what they do. And I was surprised that it went so far back in terms of history. So it tells me that they really care. So that's awesome to see that. They still have too large of a budget in terms of the actual FBI, but this is their academy where they train people. So this is really important because they help to protect the United States. So let's go ahead and dive into this puppy. So the FBI Academy has been around since 1972 at this particular location. They did have training going way far back, way before then, but this is actually at a physical location that is specifically for the FBI. So again, the FBI has been around a long time. It had different names previously going back to the turn of the century. There was always some type of training, but this is an official academy, so it's very important. It is only located in one country, and that is in the United States. The agency, again, is the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation. It is a national law enforcement training facility, and it has a training division. Its location is the Marine Corps base in Quantico. Good to know there. So a little bit of information. It says the FBI Academy is the Federal Bureau of Investigation's Law Enforcement Training and Research Center near the town of Quantico in Stafford County, Virginia. Operated by the Bureau's Training Division, it was first opened for use in 1972 on 385 acres of woodland, which is not available for public tours. I agree with that because sometimes the public is a little weird. You never know what's going to happen when you invite the public into your home, basically. The academy was opened for the purpose of training the new agents after FBI agents were granted the power to arrest and to possess a firearm in 1933. So again, this goes back quite a ways. As the newly armed agents needed somewhere to train, the Marine Corps granted them access to their firing ranges in Quantico, Virginia, obviously for training, so that's really good. After outgrowing the Marine Corps firing ranges, the FBI was granted permission to build their own firing range and classroom on the base. I agree with that, because I think that if you grow, you need room to grow. It's almost like a potted plant, right? Like right now, I'm growing pumpkins, corn, okra. There's another one. I forget. Oh, bell peppers. How can I forget those? I love bell peppers. Well, if you keep your plant in the same small pot, it's not going to grow. It's going to stunt its growth. Whereas when you transfer that plant into a larger pot, you give it more room to grow, it flourishes. Why? Because it can have a larger and more stable root system and a root supply system for the plant. Kind of the same thing there. In 1965, the FBI received approval for a new complex at Quantico, and construction began in 1969. What I'm kind of surprised about with this is that it took 4 years for construction to begin, because typically whenever you get approval for something like this, like you submit a floor plan, you submit a budget, you have all these things ready to go. Like you're saying, hey, here's our roadmap, our floor plan, construction site, what all we need. We have everything mapped out in terms of architecture, the supplies that's needed, and how much it's going to cost. If you already know those things and you get an approval, then I would think it wouldn't take 4 years to break ground. But maybe things were different back then, especially in the late 1960s. So just a little bit of a different time frame. The new facility opened in 1972 with more than 24 classrooms, 8 conference rooms, a large auditorium, a gym, a pool, a library, and a new firing range. In addition to training new FBI agents at the facility, the training division also instructs special agents, intelligence analysts, law enforcement officers, drug enforcement administration agents, and foreign partners. Now, I don't know what it means by drug enforcement administration agents because I'm not a fan of the word administrator or administration, because typically they tend to be professional paper pushers, but considering that these are agents, I'm guessing that they are not professional paper pushers. Correct me if I'm wrong at any time, but I'm guessing that they actually do a really good job and do it well. The other thing I get concerned with is this foreign partners. we should not be having anyone from another country come into our country to learn what we do or how we do it. I think that is a big mistake that the United States has been making for a while, and I don't think it's helping to keep our country safe. I think we need to keep everything homegrown, as they say. I think it would be a lot better because that deals with the safety of the United States. It says the Academy provides several training programs, including firearms, Hogan's Alley, which is a training complex simulating a small town, Tactical and Emergency Vehicle Operations Center, also known as TEVOC, survival skills, and law enforcement executive development. Now, I don't know what they mean by executive development. I hope, again, that's not like a professional paper pusher position, because people typically don't need help doing less work. They typically need help doing a better job at everything that they do. I'm not a fan of the words administrator, executive, those kinds of things, because it tends to remind me of human resources. And human resources is basically just a whiner and complainer division that sucks a company dry of its resources, its monies, because it doesn't actually have to prove that it has accomplished anything, because all they do is basically not make a profit per se, because HR they don't make a profit or earn a profit for a company. That's why they drain it of its monies. But human resources basically just capitalizes, not in a money way, but capitalizes on human behavior. People are going to make mistakes. And if anything, I think employment was a lot better when we did not have human resources, when everything was handled by the manager. That's been my personal experience, and I say that as someone that is 38 years old, and I live in Oklahoma. And we are an at-will state. So sometimes things take a long time to change in at-will states, but I have noticed that when managers were directly held responsible for their employees and their behavior, companies were run a lot better than they are today. Today, human resources, they basically can help you get fired if you complain about something, which is why we have so many whistleblower lawsuits and settlements that happen. That kind of stuff hardly ever happened in times past, and now it's a dime a dozen, so it's very concerning to me because it directly impacts employment, currency, and our markets, and that needs to stop. Goes on to say, to meet the needs of these training programs, the FBI has a 1.1-mile-long oval road track with a precision obstacle for conducting the TEVOC. Hogan's Alley is a town that the FBI had built with the help of Hollywood set designers in order to give realistic training to agents. I agree with that, because they need to be trained on what they will possibly come across or interact with, because there's so many people that they want to do the job, but they have no experience whatsoever. And, it's different when you're raised in a small town or maybe on a farm as opposed to living in the city. You have to be able to handle both situations. So this is probably realistic for that scenario, to help them realize, hey, this is how it's different, but this is also how it's similar. So it's really good on training. It helps the agents experience realistic and stressful scenarios to better prepare them for real-life situations. I kind of wonder what kind of training they do for police officers, because it seems like we have some police officers, not all of them, but we have some police officers in this country that they just don't understand real everyday life. So maybe they should be trained at an FBI academy and understand what it's like to be a police officer, to have authority in this society, but also protect the innocent, go after the oppressors, but still maintain a normal state of mind. Because I feel like in law enforcement, especially police officers that are local, and I don't just mean in regards to Oklahoma City, I mean anywhere that is local. I mean like at a state level or a city level, or even like a county level, like where you have like a county sheriff. It seems like they don't really understand everyday life, but yet they live in everyday life. So it's like their job never really gives them the complete training that they need in order to do the job well and to succeed in their career and the way that they want to. I think from what I have gathered and from what I've researched, it seems to me the FBI Academy and the training that the FBI provides for its agents is top-notch. To me, it just seems like it's better than what is provided to police officers and county sheriffs. So I think maybe police officers and county sheriffs can take a leaf or a page out of the FBI's book in terms of proper training. And it also helps them to develop really good mental stamina. because I think one of the biggest, how to describe this, I think one of the biggest pitfalls or hindrances to police officers and even sheriffs is that they just don't understand everyday life, and then they're trying to work in a position of authority, but they're not patient with people. Patient with people. Sorry, my accent a little bit. They're not patient with people in everyday life, and that's a big problem. So perhaps they should get some training from the FBI. I actually would not mind that, because I think we need more policemen and policewomen to be calmer and more confident in their job. Because I've met plenty of cops, whether male or female, they're out of line, they're not good at their job, but they want the money, they want the pay, they want the benefits, and guess what? They're overworked. So that's another issue. Like some of these shifts that just regular everyday police officers do, it's very intense. I don't think they should be that intense. I think it adds to the stress of the job. Because there's only so much the human body can take in terms of endurance and stress. And I think that's even evident within FBI training. So I think some things need to change so that law enforcement, they have, I'm trying to say this politely, but not be a pushover. I think their job should be easy. Now, here's the thing. Their job is not easy. But I think we should do everything that we can as a society and as taxpayers to help them have a good foundation of what they need to know, so that way when they do go out and perform their job, they don't feel like they're hindered, they don't feel like they're burdened, and they don't feel overwhelmed, because the nature of the job, because it is typically so intense and stressful, they're already going to feel hindered or burdened or stressed because of the type of job that they're doing. But we as a society can help alleviate that by giving them everything that they need to know and everything that they need to have in training and on the job. I think that would greatly help them, because one of the things that always disappoints me is whenever anyone in law enforcement feels like they can't do their job and they can't do it well because no one's listening to them. I think that's a big issue, and I think it goes into PTSD. I really do, because to me, there's no excuse for PTSD. Now, I'm not saying that's the fault of the patient, not by any means, but here's the thing. Whenever someone has the opportunity to handle their stress appropriately, they tend to not have PTSD. And I've seen this happen with people. I worked at a counseling center several years ago. I was an office manager. And what I learned about PTSD patients was that, at least from what I noticed, and mind you, I'm not a medical professional, I'm not a psychiatrist, psychologist, or a counselor. I'm nothing compared to those guys and what they do for their living, but it became very obvious to me that a lot of their problems that are associated with PTSD could have been handled appropriately the first time within their job and within their departments. But the reason why it got so bad and intensified was because issues and problems were not addressed immediately. It was just put off, especially for long periods of time, because people tend to view law enforcement and even military type personnel jobs as, oh, it's just naturally stressful, suck it up. Is it stressful? Yes. Should you suck it up? Yes. But that doesn't mean you should be ignored. Whenever someone has to suck it up, which I do the same thing, suck it up means that you have endurance. Even when you don't feel like it, you have endurance. Well, that endurance gets you through the day, but it doesn't heal your broken heart. It doesn't heal you from the trauma that you have experienced. That's what I'm talking about. So I just want to be very clear about that. So, whenever I say suck it up, that's not to be hurtful, mean, or shameful, not by any means, because I'm right there with you on so many things. I'm saying that sucking it up is sometimes the only way to get through your day, and then you go home and detox. What sucks for law enforcement is that they feel like they can't ever detox, because they're on a very intense job. They're on the clock for long periods of time, almost like a night duty nurse, which is very intense in an ER, right? Then they go home to their family. How are they supposed to detox when their family life could be just as stressful as their professional life? That's what I am referring to here. So it's kind of like what I've said before in times past in this podcast, where I said, the American way or we have one of these phrases, pick yourself up by your own bootstraps. That's a really good piece of advice, but it only takes you so far. Because at some point, you need help. At some point, you have to open up about your pain, your sorrow, your agony, what you're going through, because there's only so much the human body can actually endure or take. And that's just how it is in any job. But especially within these stressful jobs that deal with law enforcement, crime, and any kind of legal issues. Because if you think about law enforcement, they are very much put in the spotlight like in less than a millisecond if they make any kind of mistake. So they're under this intense pressure, not only from the job, but from the public and from the media and possibly from their families. So my personal opinion is, let's take the pressure off. That doesn't mean we look the other way. That doesn't mean society becomes a doormat to people that wear a badge. Not by any means. I'm saying to be good and kind to people that are putting their life on the line every single day. And also in a very stressful way. So just FYI, be aware of that. I'll give an example. Like there was one time I was in a drive-thru, I think it was Taco Bell. I saw that there was a cop behind me in the drive-thru. And I don't know the guy. I mean, he wasn't smiling or anything, but sometimes they're just naturally more serious. But I just kind of felt like, I'm going to pay for his meal. I'm going to do something nice for him. Because he kind of looked like he wasn't happy. I don't know what was going on that day, but I just kind of felt like, he needs a pick-me-up. And I just kind of felt in my heart, he needed to know that there are people that care about him, that even though they may not know his name or where he's from, and may never meet him in person, but we do care about them. We do care about our police officers, and so I paid for his lunch. I never said my name, nothing. I just told the cashier, hey, I want to pick up the officer's tab that's behind me. I want to pay for his lunch. And it was an expensive lunch. I mean, he was stocking up on beef, but I don't blame him for sure. But I was like, you know what? He needs this meal. And I just felt in my heart he needed to be shown some act of human kindness. So just FYI, pay it forward every once in a while for a police officer. They may be going through quite a bit and you don't know it. Because they may not legally be able to tell you what's going on, because a lot of these police officers, they are under obligation to investigate crimes, and there's a lot that they cannot release to anybody, not even their family. So just imagine having to deal with crime every single day, but you can't ever really talk about it. That would be very intense. It's like having very serious secrets every day. They're not even yours, but it's part of your job. So it's intense, because as human beings, we are naturally talkative and we want fellowship, because we long that, we desire that. God made us that way. However, the nature of the job is to go against how we're made in terms of police officers and law enforcement, because they have to keep that level of privacy in order to do their job, do it well, and to bring perpetrators to justice and to catch people that do bad things. So just FYI, be aware of that. And again, pay it forward every once in a while for a police officer. You might very much brighten their day, and it will definitely warm their heart. Even if they don't say it or show it, it does warm their heart. I know from personal experience on that. So going forward, it says, the Academy occupies 547 acres on the U.S. Marine Corps base Quantico. It is located 36 miles outside of Washington, D.C., and is a full-service national training facility. It says in order to be considered to attend the academy and become an FBI agent, a candidate must be aged between 23 and 37, a United States citizen, and possess a minimum of a bachelor's degree. Now, I disagree with some of this, and here's why. I think they should raise the age to 25, because a 23-year-old, to me, just doesn't get it. And I can think back to when I was 23. There is no way I would have been possibly ready to be an FBI agent. No way. No way, because you're too young. You don't have enough life experience. And that's not their fault. It's the fact that they're in their early 20s. They just don't know a lot. And I think they kind of need to be out in the real world at least a couple years before they become an FBI agent, because I think that will help them investigate things better and they will have more wisdom. Because at this, when you're 23, you don't have a whole lot of wisdom. That doesn't mean you're stupid or incompetent, not by any means, because I've met some really smart 23-year-olds over the years, but it's just, there's something about having maturity and life experience. It helps you do your job and do it well. The other thing I'm not a big fan of is that they have to possess a bachelor's degree. Well, a bachelor's degree doesn't really mean as much as it used to, because now almost everybody has one. So now, I have a bachelor's degree, but sometimes when I'm applying for jobs, the employer tries to tell me, or they tell me, hey, we would hire you if you had a master's. I'm like, oh, really? Well, back when I was younger, it was like, we'll hire you if you get a bachelor's, and now I have a bachelor's, and now they're not hiring me. So I kind of have to call the BS card on this, and I try and be nice to people about it. I was like, but who are you to tell me to go back to school? I want a job. I need to earn a living. I'm here to work. I don't like school. I never really enjoyed it. I put in my time in terms of getting a bachelor's degree, and it took a while for me because I got very ill several times. It's like, I just kind of feel like in our educational departments, in our universities, it's just racketeering. It's just making money off of students, and there's thousands upon thousands, if not millions of dollars in terms of student loan debt. It's like, I am not going to go back to school and get into debt. That's ridiculous. If I'm going to get into debt, it should be to buy a house, to have a mortgage, to, have a more stable life. I do not want to go back to school and be surrounded by 18 or 19-year-olds. That's, nothing against them, but, when you're in your 30s, you typically don't want to be around 18-year-olds all the time. Nothing wrong with them, but it's just, you want to be around people that understand you and you're like-minded. And plus, when you're in your 30s, you're pretty much getting into your career, or you're looking for a career. It's a completely different mindset. Plus, I don't trust employers to say, oh, well, we would hire you if you had a master's. Yeah, right. If you really liked me, you would have already hired me before you even opened your mouth like that. So, just FYI, I realize that sometimes employers just say stupid stuff just to get you out their door, but they have no intention of really hiring you. The second thing I want to mention this in regards to the bachelor's degree being a minimum in order to become an FBI agent. Unfortunately, there is a lot of brainwashing and indoctrination taking place in our schools, especially our colleges, and that is at private universities and public schools. What used to be considered crazy liberal nutbag kind of cult-like thinking, it used to only be available at like a commune or something. Like, you used to have to leave society and go search out these people because it's like you wanted to cleanse your mind, renew your mind, be a part of Eastern meditative, some kind of religion or sect or something. You had to go out of your society and go to them, which was like out in the boonies somewhere, and who knows if people ever heard from you again. Then that kind of mentality infiltrate our private schools, our private universities. And now, we have these crazy liberal nutbag professors. Now they have gotten into public schools, public universities. And what's interesting is that these people that teach these classes, there's no way that they could get a job in the private sector because they're too odd, they're too weird, and they do not get along with people, but yet they are brainwashing our young people. Unfortunately, we have a lot of young people that don't understand how real life really is. They don't understand accounting. They don't understand our banking system. They don't understand the Constitution, much less don't care to read it. They don't understand what it means to be a citizen of the United States. They don't understand you have to pay off your student loan debt and that you're supposed to be a good person, act like an adult, and pay off all your debt. If it takes some time, it takes some time, but you're supposed to pay that off. This whole debt or student loan forgiveness is ridiculous. It's encouraging people to be takers and stealers as opposed to earners and achievers. There's a difference. If you don't ever have to pay for something, you don't really appreciate as someone who had to sacrifice to earn that. So there's a difference in that. Needless to say, one of the things that came to mind when I was thinking about certain segments of the population that are young right now, I'm reminded of when Occupy Wall Street happened. I was working full-time, living my life, and I heard about this Occupy Wall Street. There are all these, late teeny boppers, like 18, 19-year-olds. I would say they're age 18 to like 25, maybe 27. And these young people, I was like, if they have jobs, they're not at their job, and yet they were occupying Wall Street. They set up shop or set up camp in the financial district of Wall Street, and we're throwing a hissy fit about different things going on with Wall Street. I'm like, really, you're going to complain when you don't have a job, and if you do have a job, you're not showing up to your job, so you're not even earning a living, but yet you're camping out near Wall Street or downtown in Wall Street and trying to tell our financial banking system what to do when you don't have a clue what to do. And a lot of these young people look like hippies. They look like they sewed their own hats, and I don't even know if they bathed. I mean, it was really weird. I just thought, get a job, get a day job, have a career. But what's interesting is that almost all these young people that were doing the Occupy Wall Street thing, they had really fancy cell phones, they had really fancy equipment and whatnot. I was like, oh, so you don't have a job, or you're not going to your job, but yet you have all this fancy toys. You have all this fancy stuff. So either they purchased it on their own, or their parents got it for them. And what's interesting is that these people that occupied Wall Street, they had this very entitled way of thinking. Well, I have news for them and anyone that thinks that way. You cannot be entitled unless you actually have a title. So if you don't have a title behind your name, you got nothing. You have no right to feel entitled. Basically, suck it up and get back to work or get a job. Like, I was just shocked that these people were doing this. I'm just like, you know what would have been smarter for those young people? Is if they actually applied for an intern at one of those Wall Street businesses or offices, and if they learned how our financial system works, how the stock market works, how the SEC works, which is the Securities Exchange Commission, learn how the FTC works, and that's the Federal Trade Commission. Learn how our country works first before you start throwing a hippy-dippy hissy fit in our financial district when you're not even earning a living. It just made no sense to me. I was like, that's very interesting. So, needless to say, that's why I think the minimum age requirement to become an FBI agent should be 25. Because my personal opinion is that these young people today, they're not as mature as they used to be. Like, I remember when I was 23, and when I was, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, it never dawned on me to go somewhere and protest. It never dawned on me to fly or drive all the way up to Wall Street and camp out and throw a hissy fit. It never dawned on me to behave that way. I was either in school or I was working or both. Like, I wanted to accomplish something in my life. And you know what? If I didn't like something in our system, whether it's our government or our currency or something like that, I would look up the appropriate way to handle that. Which the number one way to handle that is in the voting booth. It's how you vote. Also, you can run for office, or you can write a letter of complaint to your senator or your congressman, whatever the case may be. The people that are serving in public official positions, they report to us, which is you and me, the citizens of the United States. So if there's something going on, regardless of your age, if there's something going on that you don't like and you're concerned about, let your public officials know. That's their job. They're not going to know everything on the planet. That's not their job. It's like sometimes unless someone knows something, they don't know it. It doesn't mean that they're stupid or ignorant per se, or that they're a moron. It just means that, hey, I know from personal experience, like I've worked in accounting for the last 13 years of my life. I still don't know everything about accounting. I'm still learning every day. But I can research it. I can look it up. If someone makes me aware of something, by all means, I'll look it up. I'll research it. I'll learn. I'll do what I can to help the person. It's almost like whenever someone goes to, like, for example, a GP, a general practitioner, they are not a specialist. I've mentioned this before. A general practitioner is typically where you go for, like, ingrown toenails, or you need a cyst removed, which even then I would go to a dermatologist or even a plastic surgeon, especially because I'm a woman. Because you don't want your skin to look weird. Because, a plastic surgeon, they know how to make the skin look like art whenever they're sewing it up. So you want something that looks good and not horrifically scarring. But general practitioners, they're really good at spotting the flu, writing antibiotics, helping you with your allergies, things like that. But if you need like brain surgery, you're not going to go to a GP. You're going to go to a neurosurgeon. So it's one of those things. It's the same thing with our public officials. Yes, they are in our society, and yes, they serve an office, but they don't actually own a company. You know what I mean? Like, most of our public officials, they left their job or their employment to become a public official. So they're not actually currently active in their industry that they were previously in. So here's the thing. If they have never done what you want them to do, then they're not going to know what you're talking about, but they can research it, they can see if it's legal, and they can see, okay, is this something that citizens should have access to, or is this something we should look into? Is this something that the federal government should or should not do? I mean, it's almost like, for example, our public officials here in Oklahoma, not all of them are farmers. In fact, very few of them are. But people tend to think that Oklahoma, Texas, and Kansas, and the central United States, they think we're a bunch of country bumpkins and morons, and we're a bunch of hicks, and we all live on farms. Farming communities have shrunk down to almost nothing here. It really has. I mean, it's not like obsolete, but it's not like what it used to be. Most people work in the city. And if they work in a town, they typically own their own business. And it's not a farming business. So a lot of our public officials from Oklahoma, they've never worked on a farm. They don't have any contact with that. Like they have never worked a job that encompassed farming. So needless to say, if a farmer is having a problem with something that their public official needs to know about, whether it's a congressman, governor, or senator, they need to let their public officials know, hey, this is what is going on in our community. This is what is going on in our farming industry. We need to make you aware of this, and we need your help with it, because we are citizens of this country too, and, we are residents of Oklahoma. That will get your senators, your congressmen, your governors, that will get their attention. Because here's the thing, there's no possible way to know everything on the face of this earth. Even a computer doesn't know everything. They have to be programmed to know that stuff. You know what I mean? So, cut some people some slack. That doesn't mean look the other way if something shady is going on. I'm saying be realistic about your expectations of other people and give people the benefit of the doubt to do their job and do it well. Needless to say, I don't see where that kind of good mindset is happening in our younger people right now. Back when I was their age, we were a lot better about stuff. Like, we actually read the Constitution. We understood how important it was to vote. And, we weren't trying to rock the boat. We weren't trying to rip up our Constitution, but we have a segment of the population that is in college or graduating from colleges these days. They don't understand how the United States works. They don't understand democracy. They don't understand capitalism, but yet they all love money. That is a big problem, because that is a huge problem with greed. And it's, as I've said in times past, the last place to look for greed is on Wall Street, because it's everywhere else really bad. It's in the places that you don't think to look, which would be some of these young people that don't have a clue how to earn a living. It's really sad. My personal opinion is, I think young people should go to work when they turn 16. I think they should learn how to have a job. I think they should earn a living. I think they should start buying their own stuff. Here's the thing, I shouldn't say most. Young people used to want to do that. Like, when I turned 16, I couldn't wait to get a job. I wanted my own money. I didn't want an allowance anymore from my parents. I wanted to earn a living. I wanted to have a job. I wanted to meet new people. I really wanted to start a career, whatever that career could be. I just wanted to get out and do stuff. I just don't see that with our younger generation right now. And all I'm really seeing are a bunch of YouTubers that just sit around all day and make videos. Like, that may be earning a living for some, but that's not actually living your life. It really is not. Because if you ask them, specific questions about our government, they don't have a clue how our government works. They don't understand the Electoral College, if they've even heard of it. They don't understand our three branches of government. They especially do not understand the Supreme Court and the importance of it. They don't understand what the point of having borders are, or having a wall between us and Mexico. They don't understand currency. They don't understand citizenship. And they also don't understand gun laws. I mean, it's just like, do you really think that these younger generations that are growing up right now and are graduating from college, do you really think that they are the best people to put in charge of things? I'll be the first to say no, and that disappoints me. And I'll give an example. I came across a video of where, I think it was in Michigan, there was a class, a medical school class that was getting their white jacket or whatever. I guess it's like an initiation ceremony where you get your white jacket or robe or whatever to signify you're entering medical school. Well, there's a speaker that she's pro-life at this medical school or whatever, or this college. And so many of the students, while she was speaking, and these are medical school students, meaning they are becoming doctors, they got up and left in the middle of her speech. That is unbelievably disrespectful. They obviously do not value freedom of speech. Just because you disagree with someone doesn't mean you get up in the middle of a formal ceremony, disrupt it, and walk out. Not only that, some of their parents walked out with them. So where do you think this lack of respect is coming from? They're being taught it by their parents. They're being taught by their parents, oh, if you don't agree with someone, just disrespect them, walk out. You don't have to listen to that. You know, there is a certain code of conduct for public behavior, especially during a ceremony. And what's really creepy is that these students were pro-choice, and this professor is pro-life. You know, I just wonder if this creeps anybody else out, that these medical students are for killing babies. Like, if you're for killing a child, which is what a baby is, how can they possibly care about your life as an adult? Why would they preserve your life? They're okay with killing the innocent and the unborn. Like, it was bizarre to me. I just thought, whoa, talk about lack of ethics, lack of morals. Do we really need those types of doctors? No. That's a licensing issue right there. That's a nightmare waiting to happen in terms of lawsuits and negligence. Like, why would they care if someone died on their operating table? You know what I mean? Like, they're already cocky before they even graduate from medical school. They've already got this, I'm the doctor, I've got the lab coat kind of attitude. Really? Do we really need more snobs in the medical field? No, we do not. Do we need more elitists in the medical field? No. Do we need more people that like to brag that they're super educated in the medical field? No, because I think we need more humble people. And when I say humble, I don't mean those that say, oh, I'm just a worm, I'm lower than dust, I'm nobody. That's not being humble, that's being, how to describe it, that's being degrading to yourself. Being humble means you don't make yourself out to be more important than somebody else. Even if you have more money, even if you're smarter, you know that you're equals. That's being humble. These kids, they're adults, but they kind of act like the snobby kids at a daycare, which more than likely they were probably raised at daycares, because it sounds like they don't really know how to interact with people appropriately. So anyway, that's all I'll say about that. But FYI, interesting future medical doctors on that one. So a little bit about their training facilities in terms of the FBI Academy. It says they have elite units such as the hostage rescue team, the evidence response teams, special weapons and tactics, and 1,000 police leaders from across the world attend the FBI Academy and utilize its training facilities to improve on their skills. I disagree with that last part. I don't think we should be helping police leaders from across the world. I don't think they should be coming to our facilities and learning anything from us. I think we convey way too much and we share too much. I think the rest of the world should be on their own. They need to figure things out. That's what we did. You know, I think we open up too much about ourselves in terms of our safety and our national security, and I think that will come back to bite us. And I get especially concerned with this because whatever we show our allies, one day they could be our enemy. So then it puts our federal agents in danger. It also puts our military personnel in danger. So I think we should back off of that, my personal opinion. It says that they do have aquatic classes to boost cardiorespiratory endurance and muscular strength. They also do different types of drills in the water to help with scuba diving, nighttime diving, rescue diving, and rescue swimming. I did not know that was part of their job, but considering that they have a SWAT team and things like that, it makes sense that they do that. So it's good that they provide that type of training. I just think that all the training that the FBI provides should only be for Americans. It should not be shared with any other country, and it for sure should not be shared with any other police force on the planet. You know, it's kind of like, it just seems like we have some really not very bright people trying to practice this, I think it's called, not utopia, but Unitarianism. It's almost like we don't have individual countries anymore. We're just going to all be one big happy people on this planet. I got news for you. That's never going to happen. That's not how people operate. That's not how societies work. It's just not. So I think to be foolish is foolish. I think it's stupid to do that. I think we need to be careful who we trust. I think we need to practice due diligence and take our training very seriously, so much so that we are very picky who sees our material, who sees our training, and who participates in our training. It kind of reminds me of, I don't know why they do this, but our military, they sometimes accept military officers from other countries into our military training. And let me put it this way, every single officer I've met from other countries that come here to train, they have no loyalty whatsoever to the United States. They're just using us. Why are we opening up our vaults of education to people that could care less whether we live or die? I mean, it just makes no sense to me. Like, we are being very foolish in doing that. So I think that our military academies, our training classes, you have to be American. You can't be from another country. Even if you're an ally, I think it's a mistake to let people join or train here when they're not Americans. I think that seat could be filled by someone who actually is an American citizen and believes in America. Not one of these Occupy Wall Street weaklings that doesn't have a job, or one of these people that acts like a fascist or a communist, but yet they won't call themselves that. They just latch on to an agenda and just irritate people and protest. It's insane what some of these young people do. And I'm not trying to sound like Fred Mertz from I Love Lucy or anything, but I'm just noticing that, you know, there are certain behaviors that I'm seeing certain age brackets participate in that it never dawned on me to act that way. It never dawned on me to talk that way. It never dawned on me to participate in certain things that they're doing. And if ever I did, my parents would have flipped their beanies. They would have been like, "You did what? You were on TV doing what? You're protesting?" Like, it, you know, it's just one of those things. Like, I think it's better to raise your children to be good, loyal citizens, and also to be peaceful people. There are so many people that are in these colleges these days. They're being brainwashed by very liberal professors. It's stealing their joy. It's stealing their peace. And also, these liberal professors, they're convincing a lot of these young people to give up on their faith. I think it's almost like 80% of college students that they give up on their religion when they go to college. Like, I cannot think of a single college professor that I've had over the years that was actually Christian. Almost all of them were really weird people. That it's like, I don't know how they function in society because they were so bizarre. Well, those weird people are training and reprogramming and brainwashing your kids. And these people that are getting brainwashed, they're graduating from all these colleges from all over the country, and then they are entering the workforce, not wanting to work, not wanting to get along, but yet they have an agenda. They have a cause that they latch on to, you know, some stupid hashtag blah, blah, blah thing. And I'm not saying you can't raise awareness for something, but you know what? If you're raising awareness for something, if your hashtag movement is more important than treating someone with kindness and dignity, you've sold out to something really evil. And it's not right to do that. That's my issue with these hashtag movements and these people that just have these agendas all the time, that try and control society. It really surprises me that this stuff is being done because usually young people like to question authority. Why aren't they questioning these crazy liberal nutbags that are teaching them really weird, bizarre things? They're not even questioning it. I mean, I just think that is stealing their right to have freedom of speech. And these young people don't realize that these professors have an agenda, and it's to brainwash them so that they will not question anything. Well, that's the whole point of coming of age, is to question everything, to figure out what do you really believe in, what do you value, what do you want in the short term and the long term for you, your family, and your country. But if you get around people that just indoctrinate you with whatever they think you should be doing, you're not going to fulfill your hopes and your dreams or the desires of your heart because you're doing what everybody else wants you to do, and they don't love you or really care about you. Because if someone really loves you or cares about you, they're not going to try and brainwash you into something. They would never think to do that. See, it's very hard to let your light shine if it's being muffled by tyranny. It just is very difficult to live your life if you don't let your light shine. And here's the thing. This may sound a little morbid, but we only have so much time on this planet. I mean, I plan to live to be like 552. That's my goal. But, our life is temporary here on this earth. So everything we do is very important from the moment that we're born. So for someone to try and steal your joy, to steal your ideas, or to steal what I call brain space, like whenever someone's trying to get me to think the way they think and I know that what they're saying is wrong, they're trying to steal my free will to think independently for myself. That is so evil. It goes against what God wants for us, and it also goes against what our founding fathers stood for. They didn't want to be brainwashed, and that's what the monarchy was trying to do. They were brainwashing them, or trying to brainwash them into being these little subservient servants over in the original 13 colonies, and they were trying to convince people not to question anything just so they could raise the taxes on the colonists and send all these tax dollars and goods back to Britain, but yet the monarchy didn't really care about the colonists. So it's just, the United States, we are who we are for a reason, so don't sell out for some false ideology. It's weird. Like, we know that false ideologies are bad and evil in terms of religion, but yet when it comes to politics and I guess different ways of living and thinking, it's like people don't call a spade anymore. They don't question it like they should. And again, it's like what I said earlier in this podcast, that that cult-like thinking that was outside of religion, it used to just be in communes of some sort, or like a workshop or something. And you had to pay to go there, or you lived there. And you distance yourself from your family and your friends, and your family and friends are trying to find you, and they're like, where have they gone? Kind of thing. Now that cult-like kind of thinking has entered our universities, and now it has also entered our high schools, our public schools. I don't know about private schools in terms of under the age of 18, but I do think it is an issue. And I think one of the biggest reasons why this is going on is because we took God and we took prayer out of school. And to that I have to say, what did people expect? When you remove God and you remove prayer, of course there's going to be chaos. Of course there's going to be evil, and at a very rapid rate. Because you're distancing yourself from the very one that loves you and created you. I think we need to have God and prayer back in our schools. Children were taught way more when we acknowledge that there is a God and when we could pray in school. Also, I think we need to bring back the Pledge of Allegiance. I remember saying the Pledge of Allegiance, let's see, up until, I think it was after middle school, they didn't say it anymore. So I think it was like in 98. We didn't say it in school anymore, and I missed that. I think we should say the Pledge of Allegiance. Because it created this, I love my country. Because when you love your country, you're not going to harm your country. I really love what President John F. Kennedy said. Don't ask what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. And he was a Democrat saying that. By today's standard, he would be a conservative Democrat. He's not, I don't even think he would be considered a moderate Democrat. But I think what he said still rings true today. What can I do for my country? Not, what are you going to do for me? There's a difference in the attitude. But back then, during the 60s, when JFK was president, during that time, people actually cared to help each other. They really did. Not everybody, had to lock their house at night. Like, if you left your bicycle in the front yard, you knew it would still be there the next day. Good luck with that today. I mean, there's just a different mode of thinking now. And I think it has really affected our young people, because now we have young people that are very much self-entitled, very selfish, very arrogant, very pompous. And I'm not saying all of them are like this, but quite a few. They don't value faith. They don't understand chastity. They don't understand purity. They don't understand the importance of mental health. They don't understand how to keep a job or how to apply for a job. They just think employers are bad and that you should just overpay me. Why? Because my presence is here. Makes no sense. And I'm not saying that everybody should start out at the bottom of the totem pole. I don't agree with that. I just think there are some young people that have very unrealistic expectations, but they've been trained that way. They've been taught that. Because I remember when I was in high school and in college, there were all these promises made to us. When you graduate from college, you will get a high-paying job. That was a flat-out lie. That was a lie straight out from hell. Because I got to thinking about it, why would someone pay a lot of money to a 22-year-old? I mean, I would have loved to have gotten paid a lot of money when I was 22, but I just thought, especially in an at-will state, that's probably not going to happen. And the reason why they told us that was to get us to enroll in college and to have student loan debt, so that someone could make money off of us in terms of interest. That's why. Hence, we have so many millions of dollars in student loan debt that are not getting paid off. So maybe we should pray for that. Heavenly Father, I pray that everyone that owes, student loan debt or any kind of debt, I pray that they pay it off quickly, and that they are very successful in everything that they do. In Jesus' mighty name, I pray, amen. Okay, so we are almost close to an hour, so I will go ahead and close this podcast. But as usual, I pray that you're happy, healthy, and whole, that you have a wonderful day and a wonderful week. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.